This is Viva Fry.
I'm Dr. Peter McCullough.
This is Tom Luongo.
This is Chuck Prodnick.
This is Alex Kreiner.
Hey, this is Brad Wall.
This is JP Sears.
Hi, this is Frank Peretti.
This is Tammy Peterson.
This is Danielle Smith.
This is James Lindsay.
Hey, this is Brett Kissel, and you're listening to the Shaun Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. How's everybody doing today? Happy Wednesday. Man, I'm hoping the sun, comes out and we get some spring weather. I mean, I guess this is spring weather, but it's been chilly the last couple days, and I wouldn't mind a little bit of sunshine, just a little bit of heat. Let's get to it, shall we? Before we get to today's episode coming across the pond to us, how about we talk a little silver gold bull? The number of ounces of silver needed to buy an ounce of gold now at 30-year highs. Silver is a bargain price when compared to gold, and it's a perfect time to protect a portion of your savings with silver. And they have a wide variety of best value silver for every budget. Simply text or email Grahame for details. Whether you're a seasoned investor or new to precious metals, Grahame can get you squared away and answer all your questions and recommend the best products to meet your investing goals. Whether you're in Canada or the United States, silvergoldbull.com, silvergoldbull.ca. Just make sure every time you're on there and you're purchasing anything, you just reference the Shaun Newman Podcast. It can help you, it helps them, and it certainly helps me. Appreciate all of you continuing to entrust your precious metals to Silver Gold Bull. Bow Valley Credit Union. Bow Valley Credit Union is your Alberta-regulated, fully serviced financial institution and proud to present the first in Canada gold collateral lending. Now all of you can lend against your physical gold and silver for favorable rates. It's like a HELOC on your gold and silver. And if you don't have any gold and silver, they can help you get a loan to purchase your gold and silver today. All you got to do, shoot an email over to welcome@bowvalleycu.com and say hello to Leanna to get your BVCU membership started. Or just check them out at bowvalleycu.com for all the details on who they are. We have the new studio. I was saying earlier this week that I got to go take a look at it and check it out, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be sweet. Looking forward to seeing the finished product. Hopefully in the coming weeks that's going to become a thing. Hoping here in May we're going to have our first in-person in the new studio. We still got some things to tidy up there, but it's getting closer. We have the Caleb Taves Renegade Acres Community Spotlight, and we got to go back a couple of guests to Mackenzie Bloom. She has her walk and run fundraiser May 25th, so coming up real fast in Turtleford, Saskatchewan. It's $20 per person, $70 per group of 4. It's a walk or run 1, 3, or 5 kilometers. All proceeds to go towards Multiple Sclerosis Canada. You can get a hold of Mackenzie at everystepcounts2024@gmail.com. So that's pretty cool. Shout out to Mackenzie, who is putting on another fundraiser for the second year in a row. And if you're wanting to get more information on it, I can always send you the poster of it, but just shoot me a text if you're wanting more information. You're in the Turtleford region, or if you want to support her. I'm sure there's lots of different ways to do that, but that's Walk and Run fundraiser, Mackenzie Bloom, coming up on May 25th in Turtleford, Saskatchewan. Substack, folks. To my paid subscribers, we finally got a little debrief from today's interview. So if you're wanting to get some behind the scenes, I've been apologizing profusely, but just trying to get back in the rhythm of things, It has been a stretch, and we got the debrief going back out. So if you're wanting some behind the scenes footage of not only myself, but other things, pay attention to Substack, and you can grab a couple of hidden gems there. I brought up the new studio. We're still looking always for people to go on the legacy wall, put your name, your company name on it. And if you're wanting to be a part of that, just shoot me a text there as well. If you're listening or watching on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Rumble, X, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to leave a review. Make sure to retweet. Make sure to do all the things. Appreciate all the help in getting the messages out, getting the episodes out. You guys are fantastic. All right, let's get on to that tale of the tape. He's a child protection social worker in the United Kingdom who hosts his show, Crypto Rich. I'm talking about Crypto Rich. So buckle up. Here we go. Welcome to the Shaun Newman Podcast. Today I'm joined by Sir Crypto Rich. Sir, back again. It's been just a little under a year. It was August 2024 when I had you on last time, and I remember people's thoughts after they're like, do I want to tune this? And then they tuned in, and they were like shocked at the conversation we had, and really enjoyed it. And so, as I guess first, thanks for hopping on and answering the call and making some time for me today.
Hey, not at all. Thank you, Shaun. I think you're incredibly generous to invite me on because I'm a bit like, who's going to listen to me? You and I, we both listen to, and we have Alex Craner and Tom Luongo, and you've had Martin Armstrong as well, and other fabulous people. Who wants to listen to me? But okay, let's
Well,
have a go.
it's
But
it's true, but
Shaun, the funny thing about it, you ask my friends and family, and they don't have a choice about whether they get to listen to me or not.
well, it's to me, I guess I don't know. I don't know if admires the right word, but the reason why I reach out is I go, well, you're constantly in the space. You live in a different country than me. I hear about your country all the time, and yet I don't live there, right? It's like
Yeah,
somebody from the United States commenting on what's going on in Canada.
yeah,
And what's happening in Alberta is different than what's happening in Nova Scotia. And you go, I just want to talk to somebody who's there. And maybe everything that people are saying is bang on the truth, or maybe it's over. I just don't know. And so I reach out to you because you're in the space and you talk to all these people that we're so fond of, but you're
yes.
the guy sitting there. I was telling you, like there's people that don't want to travel to the UK anymore. I'm like, okay, well,
I don't blame
is
them.
it that bad? Or
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. For people abroad, it can seem that way. I remember many, many years ago, there was a fire at a major underground tube station. And I had relatives in Pakistan pinging me, reaching out to me, say, are you guys okay? And then also there might be something that happens in Pakistan, and then I get worried, like, but the world is so big, Pakistan is so big, the UK is so big, London is so big. And I imagine like when 9/11 happened, somebody's in Brooklyn, they got family abroad, and the family abroad are saying, hey, listen, are you guys okay in Brooklyn? So yeah, I can get it. I can get it. So you want to know the state of the UK.
well, think about it. Like okay, I just did the Cornerstone Forum.
Yeah.
I had in Martin Armstrong and Alex Craner and Tom Luongo and all these people. And one of the things is like, one of the things I had to answer for these speakers is Canada safe to come to? And I'm like, Canada's safe to come to. Yeah, we're a laughing stock of the world, but yeah, you yeah, come. Like you're worried about something that I'm not saying there isn't concern, but
Mm,
overall, getting into the country and coming and enjoying what Canada has to offer, I'm almost not shocked, but maybe it is shocked. Maybe I was shocked at like having to talk people off the ledge of having to come to Canada and worrying about, and this isn't something new. This has been going on certainly since I started the podcast, of people being like, is it safe? And I'm like, safe?
yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, could you get arrested? Yeah, but I think you can get arrested anywhere you go in the world if you kick the wrong hornet's nest. You kick the wrong hornet's nest, the hornets are coming out and they're going to get you. But like, coming to Calgary, Alberta, um, I would argue is probably one of the safest places in the world. And I know there's going to be Calgarians that are like, well, listen, we got problems. Well, yeah, you do. But I mean, it isn't like it's the front line of Russia, Ukraine. Like these are drastically different things, in my opinion. So I look at the UK and I see people getting arrested for tweets, for praying. I see, like the mass immigration problem. That's are the things that media tells me are going on. So I
Mm,
look at crypto and I go, tell me, yeah, they're right, or yeah, we got problems, but everybody's got problems.
yeah. Well, I think the UK is suffering from the same affliction that Canada's been suffering under Turdo and now under Mark Carney, which is that we have people in power who are not interested in serving the needs of the citizenry, but are interested in pushing this globalist WEF, eat bugs and then you'll be happy agenda. They're out to destroy our livelihoods. And I've done a fair amount of coverage of what's happening in Ireland. Ireland is just further down the road. Population of about 8 million people. Never did any harm to anybody. And the country is being colonized. It's being destroyed. And I'll say what's happening in Ireland, and then I'll come to the UK. So in Ireland, in the last, I don't know, handful of years, it's gone from being a homogenous white Roman Catholic country where now 20% of the population are mostly Muslims, mostly men, recent arrivals, in the absence of any economic growth. It's not like there's jobs for these guys to come in to take. They're being flown in. They destroy their passports on the aeroplane, so when they arrive, they have no ID or anything. They're being deposited all over Ireland. The city of Knock, which has particular value for Roman Catholics. I don't know why, right? Forgive me for any Roman Catholics, but it's a holy city for them. There was a plan, I don't know if it's gone ahead or not, but to change the population by adding 10% Muslims there. So the country's gone from being homogenous, Roman Catholic, to incredibly diverse. I was in Dublin Airport a couple of years ago, just in the airport, dropping my daughter off and her friend to visit somebody. And I thought, I'm in London. Now, just to make it clear, I'm not racist or Islamophobic. I'm Muslim. I'm a man. I wasn't born in the UK. I was born in Pakistan. But when I came here in the early 70s, it was with my older brother, my younger sister, and my mother and father. My father had a job. He was vetted. There was a job for him to come to. There was accommodation arranged for him through his job. And because he had a job and he had his family, he had to be responsible. He had to live a decent, proper life, providing for his family, going to work and everything. But what you've got in Ireland are men with nothing to do, hanging around. And they're mostly military-age men. What are they going to do? There's on the south coast, now I'm coming to England, on the south coast, there's a little seaside town called Camber Sands. It's got one of the few sandy beaches along this stretch of the southeast England. And there's a holiday camp which has about 1,400 spaces. And the population of the town itself, Camber Sands, is 1,200. So 1,200 local people. Most of the money comes from some agriculture, but from tourism. It's really, really crowded in the summer. So the government are going to deposit 1,400 men in this holiday camp. Now, Shaun, let's just do a thought exercise. This is a rural location, no direct transport into London. There's no jobs for these people. What do you think is going to happen? You put 1,400, and it's not just men from one particular country. There'll be men from Afghanistan and Pakistan and Syria and Libya and Nigeria and Ghana and Congo and Algeria and Georgia and who knows where else. Living in what was a former holiday camp in this small tourist resort, local tourist resort, because people outside Britain don't come to Camber Sands. They don't know about it. What do you think's going to happen, Shaun?
Well, nothing good. And that doesn't...
What will happen?
When you deposit people from all those different countries, there's just different value sets, different religious beliefs, and I assume different conflicts of animosity between those different groups of people that carry over from their respective countries. I'm just going to assume.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you said, you rattled off what you are, and you're like, I'm not a racist. It's like, well, we're sitting here. This is one of the things I like about you, Crypto, is you come from a different background to me, but we can both look at this and be like rational and go, that ain't right. That ain't right. I told the story a couple podcasts ago. I'm going to share it with you again because I thought it was like super interesting to me. I was coming home from Calgary from the forum, and I stopped into a gas station on the north side of Edmonton, east side Edmonton, sorry. Not that the directions matter for crypto folks. And I walked in, and there was this Muslim man, older gentleman, and he said it was a Tuesday morning. And I can't remember how he did it, but it almost caught me off guard. He was like, "Wonderful Tuesday morning to you." And I looked at him and I'm like, "What's so wonderful about it?" We started to have this little conversation back and forth. And he had come from South Africa. And I said, "Oh, like, like what's South Africa like?" And he's like, "Oh, it's much the same of what you have here. Like, obviously, you have a beautiful country, you have tons of space. I've lived here for 27 years now, so this is home. I married a girl. This is why I came." But he's like, it doesn't matter if you're in South Africa or you're in Canada or, in your case, the UK. Politicians just try and divide us over and over and over again,
Yeah.
so that we get angry at each other. Because he's like, I'm in my opinion, I'm Albertan. But I still have people coming in telling me to go get back on the bus and go home. And he's like, go back. Like, why? What have I done? And it was I honestly am thinking, folks, about driving back to the gas station, inviting him on the podcast. That's how interesting the conversation was for 5 minutes. I shook his hand and said, "God bless you. You're like, this is super cool. I hope you have a great Tuesday as well. You just changed my outlook on Tuesday today." But it was a guy from a different background, a different religious belief, different whole bunch of things. But he said,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where you go in the world, politicians, the good, the bad, they're all in there. And they just keep putting these divisions. It's a friend of ours, Alex Craner, always talks about the red and black ants. And you go, why would you stick?
Shake the
Why?
ants in the jar.
Yeah, why would you put that in the middle of a peaceful town in your story? Well, you can do all these, you can say all these lofty ideas of utopia, and this is how, but that ain't gonna play out. You're gonna have animosity, and then then you're gonna have to say, well, I'm not racist, but I'm just trying to address the situation in front of me, and that's that's what's playing out everywhere, because they just keep forcing people into places where there isn't enough accommodation, there isn't enough work on all these things over and over again. It's not unique to the UK. It's not unique to all these different places. I guess what I'm hearing is it's more of the same, and the
More of
UK
the
is just
same.
experiencing their version of it.
Yeah. And I just want to clarify what I think is going to happen in Canberra Sands. For anybody watching, you can, comment if there's something that we've missed out. So one is there's going to be a loss of revenue for the local people because tourism is going to collapse. That holiday camp is no longer going to be used by holidaymakers. So whatever small businesses there were in that area, well, they're not going to have any revenue. And then you have all these men in the area. Well, that's going to put off all the other tourist businesses, the Airbnbs, the hotels. Then you're going to have the loss of to the local transport services because they're not going to have any revenue moving people about. Then you're going to have a loss to local businesses in terms of the shops. I've been to Canberra Sands. It's lovely, absolutely lovely. And I'd go to the local farm shop to buy some locally produced produce. That's going to die. And you're going to have the loss of community cohesion. And then you're going to have local people moving out. Property prices will plummet because people want to move out, but nobody will want to buy the properties and move in. You'll have more vandalism, more graffiti, more crime. Because what are these men supposed to do? Hanging around in street corners or whatever? They'll cause mischief. They'll get into trouble. You'll have an increase in sexual assaults. All that testosterone. And the way that some of the attitudes that other people in other parts of the world have about the West, whether it's right or wrong and they should have those attitudes or not, the point is they do. I know in Pakistan, many of my people that I've spoken to think that because of Islamic Moors in Pakistan and women are covered up, there is this notion that in the West, women are just free and easy. They just want to have sex all the time. Because, people have all sorts of stereotypes and prejudices about other people. People in the West have them about people in Africa and Asia. Or people in Africa and Asia have them about people in the West. And they think they're true. So you'll have more sexual crime, you'll have more violence, you'll have greater poverty. What you'll have is what the Cloward Piven strategy is designed to produce. And that's what's being played out in Ireland, in the UK, in Sweden. I've got a friend of mine, two friends. One of them spoke to this other friend who's from Sweden about what's happening in Sweden. This incredibly safe, homogenous, largely homogenous country, bringing all these people in the absence of economic growth. It's one thing to bring them in when there's economic growth, but when there isn't, why are you bringing them in? Because you don't have an expansion in resources, so you have more and more people competing for the same amount of resources. And then there are deliberate policies being put in place by this government to favor non-native people. So one of them is this Labour government, Keir Starmer's government, is talking about making Islamophobia a criminal offence. Shaun, am I allowed to swear? You've had Tom on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, give her.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck off. Fuck off, making Islamophobia a criminal offence. What, you're going to make it a criminal offence to criticise Islam, but not Christianity or Judaism or Hinduism or humanism? Fuck off. All that'll do is breed resentment. Like Keir Starmer cares about Muslims. He doesn't care about Muslims. Got no issue facilitating their slaughter in Gaza or in Syria or even the Christians in Syria, right? He's got no compunction about slaughtering Muslims in Yemen. And it's not even about Muslims. The slaughter that they're supporting in Ukraine. All humans are valuable. All human life is valuable. But this is deliberately stirring the pot, shaking the ants in the jar. And then this Sunday gone, I was on a live stream with a British vlogger, Mark Heath. He's got a channel called Question by Mark. He's a Christian. He sent his 10-year-old boy to a local Christian school, and he's going to take him out and home educate him. Why? Because in this Christian school, they're now teaching the children Islamic rituals and prayers. Now, that's distinct from teaching children, oh, this is Islam, this is what they do. This is Hinduism, this is what they do. No, teaching them how to pray. Why would you do that in a Christian school? Unless it was to stir the ants, to shake up the ants, to create animosity between people, and also to destroy culture. You destroy Christian culture, whether it's Ireland or England, both Christian nations, and then people become easier to rule because they've got nothing to anchor themselves by. The King Charles is the defender of the Christian faith. That's his constitutional role. We do have a written constitution in the UK, by the way. People don't know about it. The Bill of Rights, the Magna Carta, the law of judicial process, the Act of Settlement, the Act of Union, the Coronation Oath. There are a few others that shape governance in the UK. They shape the relationship between the judiciary, the monarchy, the people, and Parliament. And the monarch's job is to safeguard and preserve England, Britain's customs, laws, and traditions, including its Christian traditions. So during Ramadan, he hosts this iftari, which is iftari meal in Windsor Castle. Now, iftari is when Muslim, by the way, I'm Muslim. If I didn't say that already, I did, but I'm just reminding you again, right?
Yep.
Break their fast when they're fasting during the month of Ramadan. So he does that, fine. But he doesn't do anything equivalent for Christianity. And you know, sometimes I must sound crazy. I must sound crazy like this Muslim advocating for Christianity. But why I'm advocating for Christianity is because I honor all people. It's the same reason I joined the anti-apartheid movement when I was 18. I'm not black. I'm not African. People should just be honored and taken care of and respected, regardless of who they are and what they do and their values. And I wouldn't want this in Pakistan, that in a handful of years, 20% of the population are fresh arrivals, men from Nigeria, from Germany, from Canada, from China, from Sri Lanka. All of a sudden, 20% increase in the population in the absence of economic growth. That is how you destroy a nation. That's how you set people against each other. That's how you break apart fabric and you destroy culture, which then also ties into the whole sexualization agenda of children, the trans agenda, the promotion of pedophilia through schools, which is happening. I think it's probably happening in Canada as well. It's definitely happening in Ireland, and they're rolling it out in England, in Britain, because then if you can sexualize children at a young enough age, if a 10-year-old boy, a 5-year-old girl are so confused about themselves, they don't even know what gender they are. I mean, Shaun, one thing that you and I can both be absolutely certain about, that I've certainly never questioned, I don't think you have either, right? Is that we're men. Now, I may have, and I actually did when I was growing up, wondered if I was gay, but it didn't. But I'm a man. I would be a man that liked other men, but actually I got that resolved. I'm a man that likes women, but I'm still a man. But if I'm so confused about myself that I don't know whether I'm a man or a woman, I'm easy to manipulate. And then I have no faith, no religion to anchor myself by. Well, then I'll do whatever's required. And not only will I do whatever's required, I don't have the emotional resilience or the strength or the wherewithal to resist. Because I'm so messed up. I deal with messed up kids. Some of the, by the way, feel free to interrupt me at any point, otherwise I'll just carry on. So in Ireland, on YouTube, you can find the Natural Women's Council, their YouTube channel, and they did this whole series of Irish mothers, like grandmothers, Irish mamas, reading from books that the government were making available in public school libraries for 12 to 17-year-olds. These books are teaching 12-year-olds about fisting, about anal sex, about homosexuality. What on earth does a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old need to know about fisting? No, what they need to know about is about being safe. That's what they need to know about. They need to know about respecting themselves and not allowing others to violate them. They don't need to know about fisting. They don't need to know about anal sex. So the government is making these books available, and they're doing it all slyly, slowly. And then there are the other policies, certainly in Britain and certainly under Biden, which are gifts to pedophiles, the open borders. In a way, it's not so easy in the UK because we're an island, but open borders are a gift to child traffickers. They're a gift to women traffickers. They're a gift to drug traffickers. But children, they have, for traffickers, have certain advantages over drugs. Drugs, get consumed and you have to get a new lot. Trafficking women, well, women are adults. They're resourceful. They can run away and call the police. A 5-year-old you can sell again and again and again and again and again, and the 5-year-old is dependent upon its captors. It's just evil, absolutely evil, that what's being done, and doing it under the sly, and the mainstream media is not talking about it. Mainstream media will talk about some other stuff that's inconsequential.
Can you you brought up Cloward and Piven, the strategy. Could you walk me through that? I was thinking,
Sure.
like, I've read about it and I've heard other people talk about it, but I think you might be the first person to have brought it up on the podcast.
Right.
I could
Okay.
be wrong, but my memory, I don't remember it being brought up.
I'm the first person today to bring it up on your podcast. We can settle with that. So
Yeah.
Cloward and Piven were, I think, a married couple. They were sociology lecturers in the United States in the 60s. And they were looking at how to move from the sort of mixed economy we have nowadays to a statist economy, state control. And they said, well, what you need to do is you need to destroy all the existing structures as rapidly as possible. And then the government can then step in with solutions. So one of the ways, and the whole thing since lockdown has been playing out that way, because lockdown destroyed business. It's begun the destruction of small businesses and the atomization of society, where we could go to a casino, but we couldn't go to a church. Thus preventing people from congregating and mixing and conversing freely. So open borders serves the needs of capital, because then businesses, they lower their wage costs. Instead of employing local people, you can have somebody from a much poorer country, put 12 of them in a 3-bedroom house, and then pay them pennies. And they'll do it because it's still better than the life they had back there, or because they have no other options here. So then you have just the open borders and the mass immigration, actually also the mass legal immigration as well. One of the things that Keir Starmer has done, he's signed a trade deal with India that would allow British businesses to employ new arrivals from India at lower cost than employing local Britons. That's just insane. So you're going to have more and more Indians coming over, more and more Indians coming over. Now, it's not an issue for me that they're Indians. It's an issue for me that they're not Britons and they're getting favorable preferential treatment, or businesses are getting preferential treatment to employ them than they are over local people. That will create resentment. It'll increase poverty. You'll have local people attacking these new arrivals, first verbally, then physically. You'll have the new arrivals defending themselves. So you just have this schism. And then that wonderful, great humanitarian Tony Blair comes out with, biometric digital IDs. That's what we need in order to track illegal immigration. And then we'll know who the illegal immigrants are. Well, you'll only know who the illegal immigrants are if you also give out biometric digital IDs to the citizens and the residents. Biometric digital IDs for everyone. Hey. So the cloud pivot strategy is designed to break society apart, to disintegrate it really quick, so then the government can step in with solutions.
There's a lot of people here in Canada that have been leaving, like a lot, and with Carney getting in, you can imagine that didn't slow it down any. When I sit and listen to you about the UK, I assume people are leaving there as well. Like, you've been there, how many years did you say?
1970.
So it's home, I mean, this has been, and you've been watching for, do you wrestle with that? Do you look to elsewhere, or are you like, no, we have to solve this?
I want to move. My Scottish wife doesn't. That's how well integrated I am. I married a wonderful, fabulous, beautiful Scottish wife. We have 2 children, 20 years old and 17 years old. And, she doesn't want to move away from her mum and dad. I can understand that.
Yeah.
And then, she says, oh, well, our kid, one of the 17-year-olds still in college, and the 20-year-old, well, he's off living somewhere else working. But I can understand that. What am I supposed to say? Millionaires are leaving. Millionaires are leaving by the droves because the tax regime is getting much, much worse. So what the government are doing, I imagine it's the same in Canada, they're increasing taxes on everybody. But at the same time, by printing more money, the purchasing power of the pound is going down. We've got the highest energy costs of any Western nation. So we're paying out a whole lot more. They're deliberately destroying food security. And I can go through some of the ways that's being done. So food is costing more. Britain could be energy independent because we have coal, we have oil, we have gas. But no, because of net zero, we're not allowed to have that. Because whatever tiny percentage of CO2 contributions that Britain produces, well, it's going to kill us. So they want to kill us by some other means before we get killed by too much CO2, which isn't going to kill us anyway because it's plant food. It's good for us. It's insane. And you know, just on that, Shaun, people don't examine. They don't examine. Just because on the media, the Guardian, the BBC in schools, or carbon dioxide is really bad for you. People don't question it. They just go along with it. Oh, we need to
What do
cut
you?
our carbon footprint.
We have our thought, or I have my thoughts on why Canadians don't question it, right? We have this, because we have the Americans to the border south of us, and they're a raucous bunch, and I'm married to an American, so it's interesting. With the UK, why don't people question it?
I think it's schooling. It's schooling. We're not taught. We go along with what they're taught. I saw something today. Paul Jones Watson. I didn't watch it. I think it was in Zero Hedge. I just read a bit of this article that children in schools are now being taught that Stonehenge was built by black people. Fuck off! What the fuck? Stonehenge built by Africans. I got nothing against Africans, but really, one, who cares? Who cares the color of their bloody skin, whether they burnt or not? Two, very unlikely built by black people, if you know anything about the evolution of vitamin D and melanin, that as we moved further north, it became harder and harder for us to synthesize vitamin D, which is one of the, I suppose, earliest nutrients in the evolutionary cycle, because all we need is sunlight to make vitamin D, and it's not a vitamin, it's a hormone that determines 10% of the functioning of our genes. So people lost their pigmentation as they moved north in order to synthesize enough vitamin D, because if you don't have enough vitamin D, you die. And also they lost their pigmentation in their eyes in order to synthesize vitamin D, so they became blue-eyed, fair-skinned. Come on, seriously? Seriously, some bloke from the Congo with really skin darker than mine built Stonehenge. This is what's being taught in schools? Well, teachers tell you the truth. I mean, the whole thing about why schools were set up, I think we covered this in our first
The
podcast.
first time, yes.
Yeah, it's a tool of class control, of colonial control. So they did that with the climate change. They did that with, and now they're doing it with distorting history. But I mean, history's always been distorted, but really, come on.
Curious, our fearless leader now, Mark Carney, was once, Bank of England. Do you have any thoughts on Mark Carney from where you sit?
Wanker. It's a British expression. Shaun, I don't know what it is. I'm not normally this rude. I'm never this rude.
I don't think you're rude at all. I think this has been great. I think this has been fantastic.
I must be sitting in the same seat that Tom sits in.
When he was working in England, though, did you know who Mark Carney was, or was
Yeah,
he
was head of the Bank of England, but he wasn't a major figure, a political figure or anything. Just managed the Bank of England. I didn't pay much attention to him. Not a mover or shaker. But I think that it's, it is the remnants of the British Empire. I completely get what Tom's argument, that they're going to use, the globalists are going to use Canada to attack the United States, because the last thing they want is a sovereign United States, especially one that's going to ally with Russia and China and cut out Europe. I mean, the insanity of Starmer's position, but then he's not serving. Keir Starmer is not serving the British people, not at all, not at all. Do you want me to say more
Oh,
Mark Carney, or more about some of the stuff this government are pushing through?
no, you can definitely talk about Starmer and the UK. I was just curious, when I look at Carney, just to add in that he's not serving the British people. When I look at Carney, I go, he can say whatever he wants. I know what he's tied to, and I can just sit here and I go, we're going to learn this. Are we going to learn this in the next 2 months, 2 years? It doesn't matter. At some point, Canadians are going to start to realize he's serving something else.
Yeah,
He's serving this utopian, dark idea of a one world together, homogenous, and he's serving other ideas that are beyond the borders of Canada. And so when I hear that out of you or out of you about Starmer, I'm like, well, they are serving a similar master then.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, let me go through some of the legislation that this government is pushing through, and I'll start with farming. And I recently interviewed a guy called the Bowler Hat Farmer. He's also got a YouTube channel, and his interviews on my channel, where I asked him. We went through some of the policies that this government are pushing through that is going to reduce the food supply. So one of the things he said to me at the start of the interview was there is 70% less food swimming around in the global wholesale markets than there was before lockdown.
Say that one more time.
70% less food waiting to land on people's tables in the global wholesale markets than there was before lockdown. So that's a recipe for famine. Then the government is encouraging farms to give up 10 to 20% of their land to just let it grow wild. Rewilding in order to encourage nature, and because of climate. Because climate. We must grow less food because climate will kill us, and it's much better we die of starvation. So you're reducing usable agricultural land by 10 to 20%. He said a farmer on average makes £40 an acre. No, a ton of wheat. He makes £160 profit an acre from growing wheat. £160 revenue. The government is paying £300 plus an acre to farmers to not grow food. So you're a farmer, Shaun. You can either work really, really hard, plow the field, sow wheat and everything, and herbicides and pesticides, and then you got to harvest it and all of that, right? And you get £160 an acre, or sit around on your fat ass for
And get
£300 an
double.
acre.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
get double.
So there's that. Then there's a feed that's being put in the cow's feed, and it's happening in other parts of Europe as well, called Bovaer. Now, Bovaer hasn't been tested on human beings. There's concerns that it goes into the soil and that it's carcinogenic, and it's being added to the feed for cows. And what it's doing is reducing their milk supply, and it's making the cows sick, and they don't want to eat it. Now, there's a boycott against the companies like Arla, big dairy company, that are using Bovaer for their cows, but then you're reducing the milk supply. There are plans. Oh, and what Bovaer does, it stops the cows farting, because farts bad for the
They're
planet.
bad. Yes.
Much better to starve. Then there's plans to reduce the livestock. I don't know what they are in England exactly, but in Ireland they want to cull their cattle by a third because of cow farts. Climate change. Climate change is so effective. You can use it for just about any sort of tyrannical imposition on the people. It's very, very diverse and adaptable. There are plans to raise the VAT, to put VAT on meat products to make meat more expensive. Now, I'm on a mostly animal-based diet. I live on eggs, raw honey, raw milk, and meat. I have a little bit of vegetables for my masala, but that's just about it. Oh, and I eat fruit. So, and it's just really healthy. I just found it really, really healthy, much healthier than when I was a vegan. So That's going to make price meat, make it too expensive for more and more people. Then there are the wind farms and the solar farms. They want solar farms on prime agricultural land because of climate change, and wind farms on prime agricultural land, which again reduces the acreage that there is for productive farming. Then there's all the regulatory burdens. There's more and more regulations on farmers. So you spend more time filling in forms than you are out in the field growing food. Then there's the sanctions on Russia and Belarus. So urea and fertilizer from Russia and Belarus has been sanctioned. So urea and fertilizer is incredibly expensive, way, way more expensive than it was before. Then there's the nature and climate bill that's coming through. It's going through Parliament now. And one of the things it's going to do is going to allow the government or some government agency to determine what the carbon footprint is of any imports. And if it's too high, well, then it can't come in, or there'll be some sort of levy in order to offset it with buying carbon credits or something. So then imported food will get more expensive. What else is there? Oh, the regulations, right? So it used to be that if you had 50 chickens or more, you had to inform the Department of Agriculture. Now, if you have one chicken, you have to inform the Department of Agriculture. So householders keeping chickens at home, because they're like fresh eggs, you have to tell the government, or it's a £1,500 fine, something like that, or 6 months in prison. So you can imagine, there you are in prison, Shaun, next to some guy who's committed some violent offence, beat up his partner, he's in for 6 months, and there you are. Why are you in prison? I didn't tell the government about my chickens.
Is there any pushback from the population on the government on this? I
haven't even finished. There is pushback, but it's discordant. It's not united. It's all over the place. And then none of this is being covered by the mainstream media. And then, independent media like you, Shaun, you're just conspiracy theorists and a tinfoil hat wearer like me. So
every day people get more and more comfortable being, well, I guess I wear a tinfoil hat now where I'm a conspiracy, I find those words prophet. I just find those words have zero meaning anymore, right? You talk about an uncomfortable subject and they label you with 50 things and you're like, well, whatever. I don't really care. And I don't think my audience cares anymore. It's just like, we just want to hear. I just want to hear what's going on.
No, it's losing its effect. And I think slowly more and more people are waking up because more and more people are getting squeezed, right? What else is happening about farming? Oh, the levies, additional levies on red diesel or whatever diesel that farmers use or something. Then the government is offering farmers near retirement age £100,000 as a one-off payment to stop farming.
When they're at retirement age?
Yeah, or near retirement age, retire early. Here's £100,000, stop farming. Then there's the planning bill that's going through, which will allow local authorities that don't have a lot of money to compulsorily purchase land and property below market cost and then sell it at market cost. Then they're relaxing the building regulations, which will allow, because the population's increasing in Britain. It's just increasing. We need to build more houses. Oh, I know. We'll build more houses on the countryside. Again, reducing arable land, available land for farming. Oh, and then there's bird flu. Chickens. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands being killed. Because the problem with eggs, Shaun, is they're very cheap and incredibly nutritious. Hunter-gatherers, the first foods for babies and when they were being weaned would have been raw liver and or raw eggs. They're so nutritious. You can't be letting people have good, cheap, nutritious food. Why would they want to eat your insects? Britain had a oil refinery up until a few months ago or something that's now been shut down. So we can't refine our own oil even if we dig it out. Now that's just the world of farming. Businesses. The government has raised the taxes that businesses have to pay. They've raised the minimum wage for young people and for all people, right? They've raised the minimum wage, which has increased business costs, but it's had a particular skewed effect on the restaurant trade, because young people will go and work in bars, they'll go and work in restaurants, part-time jobs supplement their income, but it's now more expensive for them. So the businesses, their margins have reduced, and at the same time, everything's getting more expensive. I mean, like food's getting more expensive because it costs. There's less supply, slowly dwindling supply. Then also they've increased the taxes that small businesses have to pay. So again, shutting out small businesses, and small businesses are the largest employers in the UK. But the effect of that will be to further diminish and weaken the restaurant industry. More and more cafes will close down. So the farmers are growing less food. There's less farmers because they're retiring and giving up the ghost. They're not passing the knowledge down. So that inherited knowledge is being lost. Oh, there's something else about the farmers I forgot. Very, very important. So then we can't go to local cafes and restaurants. And the meat's too expensive. And there's no eggs left. All right. Well, let's get the mealworm bugs out. I'll have a mealworm sandwich. I'll go halves with you, Shaun. One thing I forgot about the farmers.
You can just have it.
No. We must share. One thing I forgot to say about the farmers is the inheritance tax. So you take a small family farm, and when the farmer dies, there's no inheritance tax on it because that's got to be paid. Because farms aren't cash-rich businesses. The asset is in the land and in the food that they produce ongoingly. But the government have now introduced an inheritance tax, which will mean that farmers then have to, when the farmer dies, they have to sell their land sell their farm in order to pay the tax on the farm. Further destruction of the farming industry. And what the mainstream media produces, this whole notion of farmers being, big landlords with loads of land. No, it'll destroy family farms.
Or you could say,
BlackRock and Bill Gates will come and buy them all up.
That's right. You're going to centralize farming more so than it already is.
Yeah.
And you're gonna reduce it from the amount of people that are doing it now, and you're going to continue to centralize that because then there is no inheritance tax because they're a corporation and they're just going to carry on, right, over and over again. But you're going to centralize farming. When you sit there and lay out what's going on in the UK with farming in particular, agriculture, you just go, I don't want to ever get to what famine looks like, but you go, whether it's in a year or in the next 10 years or whatever the time frame is, we're leading towards a shortage of food. Are we not? Like that's everything you're laying out is eventually there's just going to be a shortage of food. And even if there isn't a shortage of food, say in the grocery store, it's going to become so expensive that everyday people are just going to go to cheaper alternatives, which is less nutritious. And you'd mentioned you're vegan and then you've switched and on and on. A ton of people who really monitor what they put in their body, that's going to become more difficult. And by more difficult, the price to do it is just going to become impossible for a lot of people.
Well, thank goodness that Bill Gates is going to give us some mealworm.
Yeah, I would laugh at that, except we have our own bug factory out in Ontario, right?
Yeah.
So that's already landed. Yeah, like it's already here. And you go, well, they didn't build it because they didn't think there was a case for it. They built it because they're creating the case for it.
That's right. And so they can make money, centralize the food production, give us that instead, and slowly kill us off. Because when you eat prawns, you take that shell off. That's chitin. chitin or chitin, I don't know how it's pronounced, right? You take that off. You can take it off when you're having prawns or shrimps. You can't take it off a little mealworm or an ant. But their whole bodies are covered in it, and you can't cook it out, which is why even when we have cooked prawns, we take the chitin off because it's poisonous for us. You can't cook it out, and then what they'll do is it'll just all get crushed and mixed in when you have your mealworm.
So when you play
Sandwich
this,
piece.
when you look at it long term, and I'm going to put words in your mouth and you could just correct me. When you summarize where we're heading, they're like, they just want to kill off the population. They want to get down to the 500 million mark of being on the planet. They're going to do that through everything we've been talking about, and then a whole bunch of other clever ways. Is that what the end goal you see as the direction we're heading? Is that, am I summarizing that?
That's their end goal. They're not going to win. I'm really clear about that. I mean, for anybody watching and listening, I'm really sorry if I've depressed you. They're not going to win. They're not winning. They are not winning. They're going to do a lot of shitty damage. They already have. They're not winning. And maybe I can say something about that a bit later, but I want to depress you a bit more. I've got more to say.
Carry on.
Okay, you've got in Canada MAID, right?
Correct.
Yeah, here we've got the assisted dying bill, right? You call the assisted murder bill. It's horrific. I think MAID is horrific. It's not the government's job to decide to kill people off. Fuck off. And like in Canada, my understanding in Canada, it started off it was going to be very restrictive, and then it's being offered to more and more people. Well, even as this bill is going through Parliament, they've widened the scope, so it can include. You know, first it was for people who were only had 6 months to live. Like you can work that out.
Terminally ill.
Yeah, but now if someone's depressed, what? If someone's got a disability, what? No, you can't do that. And what it does, it's a slippery slope. It widens the Overton window that it's okay for government and government agents to sanction the death of another. And it's completely irreligious, inhumane, not for the government to do. So that's going through. And it came through as a private member's bill. Oh, yeah, but which means when an MP says I'll propose this bill, whatever, right? But the way that it's proceeding through Parliament, it's like the government are unofficially right behind it. Now, thankfully, there is more and more protest and resistance against it, and hopefully it won't go through. But there is so much coming at us. There's the Children and Welfare Bill, which is really to make things much, much better for children and for their. You wouldn't resist the children's welfare, Shaun. Would you? You think it's important to take care of children's welfare? Wouldn't you agree, Shaun?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what a terrible, terrible name for a really onerous bill. One of the things this bill will do is it completely supplants parental responsibility. So the local authority will get to say whether a child goes to school or not, over and beyond what the parents want. It will allow local authorities to put conditions in place that parents won't be able to meet, either because they're too onerous and or they're unsuitable for the child, but the local authority has deemed it so. And people should know, listening to this, I am a local authority child protection social worker. This bill is evil. It's absolutely evil because it punishes anyone and everyone who wants to educate their children according to their own particular philosophy. The only Western state that completely outlaws home education, only Western European state, is Germany. Sometime in the mid-30s, the guy who was then in charge didn't want anybody to escape the then dominant state ideology. Here we go again. You don't want your children being sexualized at school? What are you, a pedo? Right, they're going to school so they can be sexualized and get confused about their identity. You don't want them learning about Islam, even though they're Hindu? You are racist? They're going to school. So there's that going through. There's the money that
This
he's
almost
getting.
plays out crypto like a comedy show. You could get up on stage and just turn this into a comedy act.
Oh,
Except, I mean,
there's some
reality is stranger than fiction.
it's strange. Yes. Then there's the. By the way, Sean, call me Rich.
Sorry, Rich.
Yeah, yeah. Crypto. I was lucky enough to get into crypto, to get the name Crypto Rich when I was just early. And I thought, well, people want to get crypto rich. People want to get rich with crypto. I feel a bit funny being called crypto. I don't mind being called rich though. Neither
Sure.
are my real name.
I know that, but it's like I have a guy come on, Vesper. Shout out to Vesper, and that isn't his name. And after we've got to know each other, he's like, you don't have to call me Vesper. And I'm like, I don't know. It's everywhere I see you is Vesper. So I'm like, I feel like I'm going to confuse myself. So I'll call you Rich from now on. That's
Yeah,
to me, the hockey player in me has always known you. We always shorten names. We always come up with nicknames, right? So you're known
right.
as Crypto Rich, and I don't like Crypto Rich. I want to shorten it, so I just shorten it to Crypto.
Well, rich is shorter. It only has 4 letters and one
Fine,
syllable.
Rich it is. Rich it is.
Okay. And why it is I may have said this to you before, is I don't want the families that I work with as a social worker to know their social worker is crypto rich, especially because some of the ideas that I hold, I'm a bit circumspect in the world of child protection social work. It's very, very PC and progressive. Um, okay, where was I? What was I saying? Oh, some of the other stuff they've done. So the government's saying we don't have enough money. They alleged that there was this 22 billion pound black hole in the budget that they'd inherited from the Tories. So so far, I think the government has given 13 billion to Zelensky in order to support his lifestyle. Because those shirts, those outfits that he just wears one and discards it. He needs a fresh supply of those. Um, the government said that they were going to, before they came into power, that they were going to raise the heating allowance for elderly people. So instead they cut it in order to save money. They are, yesterday, I don't know all the details, but they've pretty much reversed Brexit. 17 million people voted
To
for
get
the
out.
UK to leave the European Union, and Keir Starmer has just pretty much reversed it. The 9 odd million who voted for Labour, not all of whom would want UK to be back in the EU, but we're pretty much aligned with the EU now, including giving fishing rights to France and perhaps other European Union countries. So that's going to destroy the British fishing industry. British fishermen now have to compete with European fishermen in British waters. Then also giving up sovereignty over the British military and the British police force, so that European police forces will be able to come into the UK, arrest people and deport them without going through any formal extradition process, like no court hearing or anything.
You're
The
gonna
Brit-
you're gonna have European police on UK soil.
well, this is what it's allowed for. But one of the things, think of it from the point of view of the ruling class. You want German police policing Britons because they're not tied to the local community. I
Correct.
know I saw something a few months ago in Ireland, how the Irish were recruiting Pakistanis to be police force in Ireland. Well, that's what the British did. They would have the Muslims police the Hindu localities and the Hindus police the Muslim localities, because then each police force would be brutal to the community that they
Well,
were policing.
I've told you the story about being in Ottawa during the Freedom Convoy about the police, or have I not?
No, tell me.
So when we first showed up there, every police officer was in a balaclava. It was cold, right? So balaclava, you couldn't see their face. Sorry, I keep covering my mouth, but all you could see was their eyes. They're fully and arms crossed, right? That's day one. You try and talk to any of them, they're pretty gruff, I would say. And then by day two, after seeing people clean the streets, I remember talking to one of the police officers, and he said, "It's just like another protest." I'm like, I'm not so sure. he goes, one thing though I've never seen in my time, and I've been at that time he'd been in the police force 30 years. He said, although I've never seen a protest clean up after themselves. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, oh, there's people out here at 2 a.m. last night cleaning everything, like making sure all the garbage, everything was just spotless. Okay, that's day 2. Day 3, they've got their balaclavas off. You can see their faces, and their stature has changed from this to a little more open. Day 3, I swatted one of them on the arm. In hindsight, it was a really dumb thing. I was just I just wanted to know they had these. I forget what the numbers were, but it was a division or something. And the cop kind of was like, "What?" And I'm like, "No, sorry. I just wanted to know what you're." Anyway, so we had a conversation. By day 4, I was starting to see like high fives to the protesters, very like respectful dialogue between protesters and cops. It was very interesting. And then it's either day 5 or day 6. I want to say day 5. All those cops were gone, and a new set came in, and it started all over again. All they'd been told was what was on the CBC. These people are burning the place down. You got to be there. And they all started again, same posture. And, I didn't stay long enough to see it repeat, but I guarantee it repeated because you couldn't sit around and watch families and all these things and be like, something's wrong. I even heard one of the cops saying it. It's like, I went home last night, watched the CBC, and I came back next day. I'm like, this doesn't match. What they're saying this doesn't match. And so, they keep bringing in new people who aren't tied even in their own respective communities what's actually happening. And so we had a protest here in Lloyd, that must have been a year ago, over the carbon tax. And where were all the cops from? Certainly at the start it was Lloyd, but by the end it wasn't. It was anywhere but Lloyd. Why? Because they don't know the residents. And so they come in, they're gruff, they've been probably sold a tale on what these people are doing. And I look at the people, I'm like, it's a bunch of grandparents and like, what are they doing? And yet it's a tactic. And I've seen it with my own eyes multiple times now, where it's people that aren't tied to the community. So to me, when you say European, they've allowed for that, it makes complete sense to me. I've seen it play out. There's no tie to the people there, and they're told the story of how dangerous these human beings are, and that they need to be there and be a strong force to hold them at bay or whatever it is. And over time, I can see where they soften because they're human beings too. And then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. And then what do? They change them out. And if you have that ability in a country or in an area as large as Europe and the UK, hey, those are dark days ahead.
Where you have language differences.
That too. Those are dark days ahead.
Yep. Yep. Indeed. Then there's, what else is there? Well, actually, do you know what I'm going to go on to, right? Is I don't think Starmer's going to last. Really don't think he's going to last. And why I think he's not going to last, he's so hopeless. And because he has no integrity. None. And like a house, the foundation of a house is the integrity of the house. If the foundation is weak, the house will crumble. It won't be able to prevail. There are, whether you like him or not, Trump does have integrity. He will hold his own. His ideas are his own. Jeremy Corbyn, George Galloway, Orban, Marine Le Pen. They have integrity in as much as they stand for what they say. But, Starmer's just such a liar. He's such a liar.
Well, there's scripture, right? And being a Christian on this side, I turn, when you talk about where you build your house, I just turn to the Bible, Matthew 7. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, yet it did not fall because it had a foundation on the rock. And what you're talking about is building on anything but that. And when the storms come, it's just going to wash away. And I'm like, yeah. And we're seeing this not only in it's not shocking me, this conversation, but it's reminding me of how this isn't just in Canada. It's in lots of places. These same bad ideas that are being portrayed or played out, on all of our populations.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I was growing up, there were politicians that had savvy, caliber. They could hold their own. Galloway, a few years ago, I managed to I interviewed him on my channel, and he told me about his life and stuff. He grew up in the union movement, and you're giving speeches in local pickets or whatever, right? You're developing your skills. Starmer's a blow-in. He has no skills. Carney's a blow-in. That job was created for him. He didn't come up through the ranks in the way that I think Thatcher did, that Scargill did, that Galloway did, that many others like that have done. They've actually got some savvy, some nonce. So he has no integrity. He has no charisma. He has no strategy. Everybody sees through him. He's incredibly hated. And we had local elections recently, and the local elections recently, they covered areas that were not Labour strongholds, not Labour constituencies, Tory constituencies, and Labour and Tories got wiped out. And the reform did very, very well. Liberal Democrats did very, very well. I don't trust either of those. The Greens did well. I don't trust them either. But there's increasing dissension within the Labour Party about Keir Starmer needing to be replaced. Now, there's some other things about Keir Starmer that I have pet peeves about. So when he was Director of Public Prosecutions, he was presented a dossier. He would have been presented a dossier about Jimmy Savile's crimes. Now, Jimmy Savile, for those who don't know, was a notorious paedophile. He was also a BBC presenter and DJ. Very, very famous, very, very rich. I knew about Jimmy Savile in 1986. I was 19. And the head of a local charity told me at the time, there I was growing up in inner city London, Jimmy Savile is a notorious paedophile. It's an open secret. He's really well protected and nobody can touch him. So Keir Starmer chose not to prosecute him. Either Keir Starmer is captured or compromised or of a similar mindset. I don't know. But what non-paedophile who isn't captured, who isn't compromised, who has the power and position that he had, would give him a pass? Then there was Mohammed Al-Fayed, the owner of Harrods. There were loads of complaints about sexual assaults that he carried out against Harrods employees. That was also given to Keir Starmer when he was Director of Public Prosecutions, and he didn't pursue the prosecution. Then there's the arson attacks on Keir Starmer's on his home, that happened recently. Do you know about this?
No, I can't say I do.
The mainstream media aren't talking about it at all. So get this. One of the homes that he lived in before he moved into Downing Street, I don't know how many properties he's got, underwent an arson attack in northwest London. Somebody firebombed it. A 26-year-old Ukrainian rent boy firebombed Keir Starmer's home. Now, apparently this guy, Roman, don't know his last name, don't know how to pronounce it, doesn't speak English. How would a 26-year-old Ukrainian male model who doesn't speak English know about Keir Starmer's properties? A few months ago, sometime last year, Keir Starmer very publicly had an HIV test. And at the time, people were like, well, one, why is he having it? And two, what do we care? And why is he making such a big deal of it? You want to go have some medical treatment, go have it. It's not a big deal. Now, could Keir Starmer be gay? Possibly. Is it an issue? Only if he lies about it. Only if he pretends that he isn't. Because then he's vulnerable to blackmail. Now, apparently, 3 people have been arrested by the police in connection with this firebombing of his property and his car as well. And the mainstream media aren't talking about it. One of the things we have in the UK is a D notice. A D notice issued by the government to a mainstream media organization, which prevents that organization from talking about a particular subject. It also has a provision where that outlet cannot say that it's under a D notice. Isn't that fabulous for MI6? So, has a D notice been issued? We don't know. And if it has, they can't tell us. So, but it's the Labour Party aren't talking about this. The silence is telling.
That's why that's wild.
It's completely wild. And apparently, now George Galloway has tweeted quite a bit about it. He talked a bit about it on his Sunday show, and I listened to a bit of it. He said they had problems getting on air. He said it's the first time we've been prevented from going on air. There was a DDoS attack, or they were unable to use Zoom or whatever it is they use. There were some technical difficulties. But you should follow George Galloway. He talks about it like, what is going on?
You
Now,
said about a half an hour ago you're going to leave us with some good news.
I am going to leave you with some good news.
I want
you want some good news.
well, I'm like, oh, this has been. Well, you know what? You go. I don't know why you reached out to me. I knew exactly why I was reaching out to you.
All right,
but now I'm like, okay, you're going to leave us with some positive news or positive words. What are they, Crypto?
Okay,
what are they,
before
Rich?
I do that, there's a woman called Lucy Colony who appealed against a 31-month prison sentence. She tweeted on about a year ago, 29th of July 2024, when there were the Southport protests. And her tweet said, "Mass deportation now. Set fire to all the fucking hotels full of the bastards for all I care. While you're at it, take the treacherous government and politicians with them. I feel physically sick knowing what these families will now have to endure. If that makes me racist, so be it." She deleted that tweet sometime later. I don't know how long later. She got sentenced to 31 months in prison for that tweet. She appealed against it, and her appeal was denied. Now, what happened was some guy, some migrant, some son of a migrant, stabbed 3 girls, 3 local girls, little girls in Southport. And people rightfully protested. They were angry. And the government played it all up like it was this mass far right thing. And it wasn't. We had lockdown. I was told a few days after that happened not to go. We were told as staff not to go to our offices. Now, my office was in a small little English country town full of middle-class Quaker types. And I was like, what do you mean going? Oh, because they're going to be far right out in mass numbers. Like, this is bullshit. They ain't going to be far right out in mass numbers. It's like everybody in Britain's far right now. If you protest against open border, I'm far right, by the way, as I assume you are as well, Shaun. I'm a far right white supremacist, just like you. So anyway, so some good news. One is, and if you want to put this in the beginning of the video, that would be great. There is bit.ly/makewarhistory, bit.ly/makewarhistory, or bit.ly/lawful tax protest. You probably have the equivalent in Canada, because Canada is a signatory, I bet, to the Geneva Conventions Against Genocide and international treaties against the funding of terrorism. I bet Canada is, given how lovely Canadian people are, and his government used to be before Trudeau. In the UK, it is a criminal offence to give any money to any agency, directly or indirectly, that in any way funds or facilitates or supports genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and acts of terrorism. The British government is not exempt from the provisions of these statutes. And this applies to any fine, fee, or levy given to local or central governments. Some of that money is going to be used for facilitating the slaughter of people in Gaza, in Syria, in Ukraine, in Yemen. The UK Supreme Court has ruled that the Terrorism Act, the provisions of the Terrorism Act, apply to the military and quasi-military activities of the British Armed Forces, even when approved by Parliament. The International Criminal Court Act, which ratified the Geneva Convention or the Rome Convention against Genocide, there's a clause in that this binds the government. This act binds the government and its agents. So if I pay capital gains to the tax authorities, I'm breaking the law. It's a criminal offense. If the tax authorities ask me for money, some of which is going to be used for terrorism and genocide, as defined in those statutes, they're breaking the law. And then if I don't tell the police that this person has asked me for money that's going to be used for terrorism, I'm breaking the law. So bit.ly/lawful tax protest or bit.ly/make war history works in the UK. I done this. I downloaded a trust form. Trust is how the rich people use to avoid paying tax. I sent a copy which said to His Majesty's Revenue Collection, you can have this money provided you can prove none of it is going to be used in violation of these statutes. You have 2 months to demonstrate that. They failed to demonstrate it. And in 9 months correspondence, not once did they threaten to take me to court, and I haven't paid. It's illegal. It's a criminal offense if I pay. So if you're connected to any lawyers or anti-war campaigners in Canada who are willing to inquire into this, I can connect them with Chris Coverdale, anti-war campaigner who discovered this and hasn't paid his local government taxes for 7 years. Now, some people watching this from the UK, they might not have an issue with what's happening in Gaza or Ukraine or Yemen or Syria. Fair enough. But you might have an issue with how this government is destroying our farming industry. You might have an issue with how this government is depriving the elderly of a heating allowance, of keeping them warm in the winter. You might have an objection to climate change or how they're sexualizing children in schools. So this is a way of peaceful, lawful, legal, ethical, moral protest. And you get to keep more money in your pocket to deal with the cost of living crisis that they're creating. So you can put off the day of eating mealworm sandwiches a little bit longer.
One more question.
Yes.
One of the things that I've heard on this, I can't remember if it came through Tom and Alex or if it came through a different. I can't remember right now who said it. Is Britain preparing for war? Like, is that something that is in the conversations that are happening in your country?
I think the politicians might be trying to angle for it. I like to think that the officers or whoever's in command of the British Armed Forces is saying no. We have, I think I heard Galloway the other day saying Britain has 8 warships. 8. It has 1 aircraft carrier, and that aircraft carrier doesn't even have hot water. So the sailors have to have cold showers. I mean, really? And then we don't have the energy. What you're going to build? We don't have the manufacturing. We don't have the factories. You're going to build the factories from solar power and wind turbines in order to build armaments? And where are you going to get the money to buy the metals to make the armaments and then fuel the factories?
I never said it had to make sense, Rich. I never said it had to make sense. Just whether or not they were positioning themselves, because it was Chrystia Freeland, I think, here, who said we need to align with specifically Britain and France nuclear powers, and she was alluding to it being against the United States. Listen, I'm like, you're fucking insane.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I can't believe you're an elected official of this country. You're insane. And and since then, I whether it was training troops or starting to align, I'd heard Britain, and I'm trying to rack my brain on what conversation that was. I was just wondering if that's true.
Yeah. Well, I think that certainly the elites want that. The elites want Britain to go to, well, the elites want the US to go to war with Russia,
Correct.
right? So they can get the resources. But Britain on its own, there's no way. Europe on its own right now, they
No
got
way.
nothing. They
Yeah.
got nothing. They'll try and angle for it, but I don't think there's no appetite for it. This government isn't taking care of its people, so the people have no loyalty to the government. I mean, if you go to X, right, put in Starmer, just put in Starmer, look up one of his tweets, and just see the responses. He's hated. The Labour Party is collapsing. And then come the next election, whenever that be, who's going to be foot soldiers? Who's going to go door knocking on behalf of the Labour Party? So they got to accelerate all this process and get it all in before the next general election in 2029, which they're not going to be able to do because they'll make mistakes and the resistance will grow because they have to rush it, and that will provoke more resistance. So bit.ly/lawful tax protest for all the Britons. And if you're in Canada or the US and you're watching this, pass it on to a British mate of yours. And if you're in Britain and you don't want to do this, pass it on to one of your bullshit British mates. And then why do I think it's going to collapse? Well, they lost Ukraine. They're going to lose in Ukraine. They're going to lose. They've lost the United States. Trump is dismembering the globalist structures. He's out to destroy the city of London. I just wish he'd hurry up and deal with Israel, if that's what he's going to do, right? In order to destroy the city of London, because I consider Israel to be a project of the city of London as a way of keeping the US in check. So Trump, go on.
Well, you throw that out there. Now I'm like, well, I just want to hear more.
So the Balfour Declaration came out of the UK.
Yes.
Sykes-Picot, that was France and Britain dividing up the Ottoman Empire, and they deposited Israel in the midst of this mostly Muslim territories as a way that they could then use to stir the pot, to stoke dissent. Israel's deliberately been a really, really bad neighbor. And the way that the Sykes-Picot divided up the territories was to prevent homogeneity. So Kurdistan is in Iran, Iran, Iraq, and Turkey, preventing the Kurds having their own state. But it also means that they can use the Kurds to stir up dissent or protests in Turkey or Iran or Iraq or Syria. That's how they divided it all up. And then Israel, Mossad, trained by MI6, being behind the murder of JFK, because JFK wanted to make AIPAC or AIPAC's precursor register as a foreign organization. Well, Lyndon B. Johnson reversed that. So then you have AIPAC as a Zionist lobby controlling all the politicians. And the British doing what they've always done, which is ruling the world through proxies. And Israel is their proxy, which is why they're so pissed at the United States. The United States is no longer doing Britain's bidding. And it's always been in the UK. Oh, the UK is the US's puppet. No, the UK is the abusive, dominant one. But they're just really sly about it. Like many of the people that I deal with, many of the abusers that I deal with at a household level. They don't shine the torch on themselves. They shine it elsewhere, and you don't get to see what they're actually doing. So they've lost Ukraine, they've lost the United States, they've got no energy. I saw something the other day. Germany's now reconsidering. Um, they're going to build nuclear power stations again. Well, that'll take a few years to get going. They have no energy. How are you going to generate any revenue? They're destroying their food supply, and they're destroying the food supply quicker than they can kill the people off. So there'll be too many people, and they'll have more and more resistance, more and more dissent, more and more protests, and they'll carry on stealing the elections like they did in Romania recently. I believe that was stolen. But then more and more people are going to wake up. And then more and more people are going to say no. And then, Shaun, if I can get a little bit woo-woo with you.
Woo on.
Okay, this is the stuff I don't really talk about on my channel. There are changes taking place, I believe, at a at the level of the solar system, at the level of the cosmos, and it's to do with the yuga cycles, which I only have some understanding, which goes back to Hindu philosophy. You know about the yuga cycles?
Fire away.
Okay, so the planets go around the sun.
If you're not watching. All right, buckle up, folks. Here we go.
Okay, so the planets go around the sun, but when I was at school, it was like a flat plane, like a plate. It's not like a plate. The planets are going around the sun in a conical shape, like a traffic cone. But the sun is revolving around the galaxy, and it's on the outer edges of the galaxy. And as it goes round the outer edges of the galaxy, it doesn't do so in a plane. It does it in a sinusoidal curve going up and down, up and down, up and down. Now, the galaxy is a bit like a plate. And we're on the outer edge, going up and down over the outer edge. In the middle are a concentration of stars so dense that I imagine there's no night. There's so many stars. There's so much energy in there. But the energy is occluded and obstructed by all the other bodies in between when we're at the dense edge of the plate. But when we rise above it, and we have risen above it, there's a point, I think it's called M40, we've risen above it, we get exposed to these energies from outer space. And these energies from outer space are going to, some people are saying, I don't know if this is true. Okay. I'm willing to entertain this idea because who knows, there's way more to discover than we know about. But there are some people saying, some astrologers saying that this will reignite dormant DNA. It'll activate dormant DNA, and it'll activate powers that have other powers and capacities that have laid dormant. I don't know. But apparently, when we go above this point, as we have done, we go into different yuga cycles where we have psychic powers, where we live blissful, peaceful lives, where we're impacted by these beneficial energies. And apparently the powers that be, the elites who use astrology, know this is coming. And we have been lied to about astrology, like many, many other things, that it's hocus pocus, has no scientific validity. Well, science is the lie, because science can't explain consciousness. It can't explain the unified field. It can't explain, get this, Shaun, there's a Vedic astrologer in the town where I live. My wife goes to have a reading with her. The Vedic astrologer just knows her time of birth and place of birth and her name. In the first few minutes, the Vedic astrologer tells my wife, oh, you had a son die. How did she know that? How did she know that? Our first son died over 22 years ago. She then told my wife other stuff that she couldn't possibly have known. I contact this astrologer, send her a message saying, I'd like to have a reading with you. I don't tell her that I'm married to this other person. go and have the reading and meet with her. And in the first few minutes, she tells me, "Are you married to so and so?" And I said, "Yes." "How do you know?" She says, "It shows up in your horoscope." What? She told my wife, "Oh, there's a man in your life who's a really powerful, forceful figure, very outspoken. And when I find out who he is, I'm going to have words with him." In my reading with her, I said to her, "What do I do for a living?" She said, "You remove children from situations of trauma." How does she know that? She said, "It's in your chart." There are changes happening that are hidden from our view because all we see is a tiny, tiny section of the electromagnetic spectrum. But there's this whole other range that we don't have access to that I'm sure we're impacted by in ways we don't know. This Vedic astrologer, I do regular videos with her. I didn't do this for Bitcoin. I've done this for other cryptocurrencies. I said, here's the date when it was, she knows nothing about Bitcoin until I started doing videos with her. Here's the date when this cryptocurrency was launched. This is the date when the blockchain was launched, right? Do a chart on it. So she comes back to me. I give her the date of this crypto. She goes, oh my God. Oh, they thought a lot about this crypto. They thought a lot of research went into this crypto. Governments aren't going to like this one. This one's meant to be hidden. Monero. There's a video I haven't posted yet. I gave her the date of another one. The first thing she says is, "Oh, I looked at the chart and this one made me laugh. This one made me laugh. It was designed to be funny, but strategically funny, deliberately. It's going to do very, very well." Just from the chart. Dogecoin. I mean, she's got Ethereum right. She's described Solana correctly. Binance Coin, Ripple, Stellar Lumens, Doge, Monero. How? So I'm interested in that domain and sphere of knowledge and how that's going to impact us. And people like Joni Petrie, like Pam Gregory, there are good times ahead. That's what they're saying. And as long as we keep saying no, and not as long as we keep standing for, this will not pass. There are good times ahead, Shaun.
Crypto, that's one way to end it. Appreciate it. Good times ahead. And I look forward to the next time we chat. And appreciate you hopping on today.
Shaun, you are such a delight.